All right, let's get it. Today, I want to talk about something that's really been bothering me as of late. Um, it has to do with a topic that is affecting all of us, or I should say, the majority of us, and that is inflation. So, I want to title this discussion Know Thy Enemy. And again, this is about inflation. So this video isn't about someone that you have beef with. This video isn't about anything biblical. It is about who is the real enemy of the working class. So tomorrow is Halloween, October 31st. I don't know about where some of you guys live, but where I live, they've had Christmas decorations out for like the past 2 weeks. So that's mid October, and they're already trying to get you gassed up and revved up for Christmas. And it's amazing to me that in the midst of all of this inflation talk, and talking about how bad the economy is, how soon they turn to make sure you spend your money on Christmas or Xmas or whatever you want to call it. It's crazy, right? I mean, because I remember when I was a kid and they first started saying Xmas, and it was just a big thing about how can you take Christ out of Christmas. And the truth is, Christ was never in Christmas. But that's another story, right? So it's just weird to me, right? How all you hear about, this is also election season, which is why I'm part of why I'm doing this, right? You got your primary elections, or your midterm elections. I'm sorry, coming up on November 8th, and one of the hot topics is the economy and inflation, and why is everyone struggling, or most of us struggling, right? Basically, why isn't the strength of the dollar as strong as it used to be? So let's just look at that chart on the left and look at that huge spike, and I mean huge spike, since 2020 up until now, right? And COVID is partially to blame for some of the inflation. And as my brother-in-law started calling it, it's the COVID tax that we're experiencing. And he's partially right. I mean, because COVID did affect the supply chain and the shipping industry, which was naturally going to cause prices to increase, right? But here's the thing that you have to consider: the government cannot do anything about inflation. They have very limited control. This is one of the downfalls of capitalism. Actually, this is capitalism run amok. You know, you can increase the interest rate, which is going to basically make it harder to get loans, going to make it harder to get approved for credit cards, all of that kind of stuff. But here's the rub with that, if you want to call it the rub. So when people stop buying things, and this is sort of like the reason why they raise interest rates, right? So people stop buying things, right? So then production starts to go down, right? And what happens when you don't have the demand and production starts going down? People start losing their jobs. So ultimately, the only thing that the government can do is sort of create a recession by raising interest rates. And at this point, it's inevitable. A recession is coming. That's the only thing the government can do to sort of curb inflation. And I don't care if it's Joe Biden, I don't care if it's Donald Trump, I don't care if it's Barack Obama or George W. Bush or Bill Clinton and so on and so forth. None of them can do anything about inflation. It's just one of the biggest lies that the media tells. Government does not control inflation. Corporations control inflation because they set the prices. If the government controlled the price of goods, then we truly would have a socialist economy. So when you hear people talk about socialism, trust me, we're nowhere close to it, which is why you cannot blame the government for inflation. Now, you do have corporate politicians or so-called corporate politicians who are bought and paid for. And they just allow these corporations to set the prices on any and everything. And they know that they've been experiencing record profits for years. And yet their corporate greed just keeps them wanting more and more and more and putting more and more pressure on the working class, and you get less and less bang for your buck. I mean, there is no reason why some of these goods are going up. They keep blaming fuel, but they won't let the government put a gas tax on anything, right? And trust me, he can't, because he doesn't have that kind of power to put a cap on fuel or tell them that they can't charge whatever they want. He doesn't have that kind of juice. No president does. I don't understand why there's an increase on things like milk and chicken and all kind of dairy, right? Because we don't have a shortage of cows or chickens. You know what I'm saying? But yet we keep seeing all of these prices increasing, right? So the supply is not exceeding the demand. And technically, those are supposed to be the only reasons for price increases, right? when the demand exceeds the supply, then you have price increases. But we just have price increases now just for the hell of it. So I'd like to, or I'd like for you to pay attention to this graphic I have on the screen. This basically is Black Friday revenues. And we all know that Black Friday is coming. That's the day after Thanksgiving when people go out at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and stand in line for hours to try and get the best deals. So in 2019, the revenue for Black Friday was $142.4 billion. In 2020, the projected revenue was $184 billion. And that's billion with a B, folks. The actual revenue for 2020 was $4.2 billion more than the projection, more than what they estimated. Think about that, folks. Let that sit in. And just for my business people who say I'm trying to be misleading, I got this graph that shows that revenue minus expenses equals the profit. So I'm not saying that that's how much that they made. I'm not saying that's how much corporations netted. I'm just saying that's their total revenues. So I'm not trying to be misleading. I know that you have to subtract the expenses out of that to get your profit. But here's the thing, right? In a lot of cases, those costs are being passed on to the consumer. All of those shipping costs that we were experiencing during COVID, those were being passed off to the consumers. Anyone who tells you different is being misleading. So yeah, consumers may not pay for building fees and all of that kind of stuff, but think about what's the main reason they tell you that prices are increasing: the price of fuel. That's the cost of doing business. So we have to pay for companies to put fuel in their vehicles as well as putting gas in our private vehicles as well. Think about that. That's not a good reason to raise prices across the board, but that's what they're going to tell you. That's the reason for it, right? As if we're all not suffering from the same high fuel prices. This is the problem with the system. This is the problem with capitalism. So when I say know your enemy, I'm saying that we need to recognize who's the real villain. Corporations are the real villains here. It's not the government. It's not Joe Biden. It's not the Republicans. It's not the Democrats, at least when it comes to economics. The real problem is corporations. And I need us all to wake up. I need us all to wake up and see that we've been bamboozled, led astray. run amok, to quote Denzel from Malcolm X. Hoodwinked. That was another one he used, right? So we need to band together and take back our power as consumers. We need to stop just caving in and buying things, and a lot of it we don't even need. We need to just stop supporting all of this stuff. Stop supporting all of these sales. Stop buying just tons of things you don't need for Christmas. And look, I'm not going to be shy about it. I don't celebrate Christmas anymore, and I know some of you still do. And hey, that's your prerogative. But I'm saying, stop with the buying all of the gifts. Stop putting yourselves in debt to buy Christmas gifts. Stop participating in President's Day sales and Columbus Day sales and 4th of July sales and Father's Day sales and Mother's Day sales. And for every holiday, there is a freaking sale. Recognize what's really going on. This is all a design to keep the corporations profiting and to keep you struggling. It's all by design. Get them out of your pockets. Start saying no to the sales. We have to take back our power, people. We have to take back our power that we have given away over the last, I don't know what, 15, 20 years. I mean, just think about it. Everything is going up except for your wages. Everything is going up except for your paycheck. And yet we can't get a raise on minimum wage. Think about that. I mean, just think about how ass backwards that is. That the cost of living has increased by what? Over 10%. You're barely scraping by as it is, and you've raised the price on everything. How do you expect me to live? How do you expect any of us to live off of that? There is no reason that you should work 40 hours a week and not be able to pay your bills and not be able to feed your family. What's wrong with that picture? In America, where we're supposed to be the wealthiest country in the world, if we're supposed to be the example, we're failing miserably. So I'm going to leave it there for now. If you like the way I think, hop over to Patreon. Check out some of my original short stories. It's only $1.50 per download. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss out on our future videos. And like always, thank you for your time. Peace.